Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome once again to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen, coming to you guys here in middle of March. We are very, very close to WrestleMania 40. It is rapidly approaching Philadelphia. A lot of things getting set up. A lot of things going on inside the ring, outside the ring, WWE, AEW. Quite a few interesting topics that we can discuss today here in the Juice Box. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, where we are still currently doing the hashtag 30 Days of Wrestling Tees, showcasing some of the more interesting and rare vintage wrestling t-shirts throughout the history of pro wrestling, which is always a fun time leading up to WrestleMania. JuicySteen.podbean.com, Apple Podcasts, no longer Google Podcasts, but I think it's still being shipped out over there. Spotify to listen to the Juice Box. And if you do listen to it on Apple or Spotify, please give it a 5-star rating. Drop a review if you'd like as well, a written review if you like the show, if you hate the show. If you have some sort of thought on it, that would be great as well. Really would help the show grow. So a lot of different things to touch on today. It's not going to be a huge episode, I don't anticipate. We had a huge AEW Big Business episode of Dynamite this past Wednesday, which was interesting. And we also have the ratings from that show, so we will dive into that here as well. WrestleMania week, of course, shaping up with the WWE side of things. Cody smacking The Rock, slapping him in the face. We're going to touch on some of that as well. The Juice Box for WrestleMania week, it looks like, I'm trying to shape it up a little bit with some interesting programming notes, some changes to the show in general. Things are still in motion as it is March 14th. We are doing the best that we can to move forward with everything in that regard. So, looking forward to WrestleMania week. Philadelphia should be a fun time for sure. But let's do SmackDown into Raw, and then we'll conclude with the AEW of it all. SmackDown was interesting as we finally did get the confirmation that Cody and Seth will take on The Rock, Roman Reigns, The Bloodline on night one, Saturday night, in a tag match. If Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins win, all members of the Bloodline will be barred from ringside during the undisputed WWE Universal title match between Cody and Roman on night 2. However, if The Rock and Roman Reigns are victorious, then the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship match on night 2 will be held under Bloodline rules. So, regardless of anticipating, and predicting this already, I think it's pretty safe to say that the Bloodline will win on night 1, leading to a chaotic Bloodline rules match on night 2, which, whatever the predictions show for that gets recorded and released, I believe, that is going to be a wealth of creativity, whether good, bad, or ugly. I think it's going to go all of those ways. If it's Bloodline rules, it's going to be so insane. I can see numerous members of the bloodline interfering. I can see numerous members, not members, but numerous opponents, former opponents, or people that just got run over by Roman Reigns outside of Edge and Daniel Bryan, potentially interfering and helping and assisting. And I honestly think it's going to be the most Attitude Era, in a good way, overbooked WrestleMania main event that we have seen in a long time. And I don't want to dive too deep into who I think could really show up. I'll save that for our predictions show coming up, WrestleMania. Excuse me, WrestleMania week. So we'll get there. But I just I think there's a lot of chaos that could happen in that match, assuming that on night one the Bloodline win. But the other part of it, is, let's say the Bloodline do win, who takes the L, on the other side? Who takes, assuming it's a pin? Is it safe to say The Rock would get the pin? Or, would Roman get the pin? Does that factor into, the night two of it all? Whether Roman gets the pin, but The Rock did the move. If The Rock did a rock bottom, but Roman got the pin, is that going to cause friction? And then back to the original point, though, if I doubt Seth takes the pin, I think maybe Cody saves Seth from doom and takes the loss, garnering more, uphill battles for the following night. I think that's how they're going to play it. I don't know. Again, I don't know how it's going to end up going, what move determines the finish and what have you, but I think it's safe to say that Roman and Rock will be walking out of night one as winners. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, we had Cody slapping Rock. They accepted the challenge. Logan Paul returned, and he announced a couple things here. So he announced that the Prime hydration drink that Logan Paul and KSI have created and built, and it's been pretty successful thus far, I would say, in the market. And I've had it. It's really not that bad. It is a comparable drink to a, not Gatorade, but more of a Propel Fitness water, just like a flavored water, your Smart Waters, but a little bit more flavor than that. It's an interesting drink. Decent flavor selection, too, which is what helps. WWE and Prime are now going to have a sponsorship in the center of the ring for all premium live events going forward, starting with WrestleMania, which is crazy. In the 40 years of WrestleMania, let alone the 60 years of the WWE, there have never been any sort of advertisements in the ring for WWE. It's always been a blank canvas, which I do believe was a Vince McMahon ideology, something that he chose that I could agree with to an extent. Make the wrestlers, make the matches the art in the ring. Have the canvas be a canvas. Have the art be the matches and stars. And the ring is just the ring. It's just a blank slate for magic to happen, That being said, as a WCW historian, lover, fan, what have you, you had the turnbuckle posts covered with Ruse, the shoe brand in the 90s. You had, I think Coors might have had a branding on the corner posts as well. Additionally, I mean, the WCW like Target logo, like a not Target bullseye, but Target like blue and yellow WCW Target logo in the middle of the ring was always a pretty solid, memorable choice. A lot of the pay-per-views had in-ring stuff. I know Fall Brawl had the image in the ring, and a lot of pay-per-views ended up having the image of the pay-per-view logo in the ring. Arguably the biggest one is Halloween Havoc, where not only was Slim Jim Halloween Havoc on the mat, but the corner posts were wrapped and decorated as if they were Slim Jims themselves. So other companies, of course, have had this happen. AEW has been a part of this. What's interesting is that UFC has done this pretty much since the beginning, ever since they had advertisers and advertisements and sponsors. They've had a logo or something in the octagon, which again, I don't see this as a quote negative. I just see it as a staunch change from what they've done literally forever, which has never had something like this. So I think it's an interesting sponsorship. I'm curious to see if it actually is going forward with all the premium live events. I can see WrestleMania. It's the biggest show of the year. You're going to have the most eyes on the show. You're going to want the show to, I mean, I've heard that Logan Paul is getting upwards of $5 million in the contract sense with WWE. I have heard that through a few sources. I would say that the Prime sponsorship probably covers that, which, back to the Halloween Havoc Slim Jim thing, Randy Savage was in WCW basically for free outside of the Slim Jim sponsorship. Like, the Slim Jim sponsorship kind of covered it all, and they didn't really need to pay him an astronomical amount of money, and it was a perfect relationship between all three, WCW, Randy Savage, and Slim Jim. So I like the idea of this. Mick Foley famously threw out an Instagram post of Undertaker looking at him in the ring as in the Hell in a Cell King of the Ring '98 with a Prime bottle logo in the middle of the ring, of just how absurd that might look. And I get that, but I don't know. It's 2024. It's a new way of doing things. This is how they do things. And I just think it's a unique way to promote Prime, promote Mania, promote Logan Paul, who is on such a roll. He's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. He's kind of built for WWE as like a wrestler, a promoter, a brand guy. Like, this is the most ideal situation for WWE and, Logan Paul. So I just love the whole thing. It is going to be weird seeing a Prime bottle or however they're going to do it in the ring, but I think I'll get over it. I think a lot of fans will get over it. So we'll see. But either way, and I also I am curious. Will it actually happen past WrestleMania? We'll find out at Backlash in France in May, I believe. So we'll see. But Randy Orton interrupted KSI, hit him with an RKO. I'm not sure if we're going to get a Randy Orton Logan Paul match. I thought we were getting LA Knights versus Logan Paul. I don't know what's going on. I also thought there might be a ladder match for the U.S. title. And although that might not happen, there will be a ladder match at WrestleMania, and I will discuss that here in a moment as well. Trying to see anything else. Lashley and Cross had a match. I assume there's going to be a 6-man tag between the Street Profits, the Final Testament. Lashley Cross. We'll see. I don't know. Not a lot of heat there with me. There's some heat with the Bayley thing. I'm looking forward to Bayley and Io having an interaction maybe this week, tonight on SmackDown, furthering their future match at WrestleMania. And AJ Styles seems to be involved with LA Knight. So, man, I don't know what's going on. LA Knight versus AJ Styles, does that do it for you? As a one-on-one match, I think both guys would be better suited in a potential U.S. title multi-man match. Like I said, a ladder match or something. But not a ladder match now. We're not going to get a ladder match for the U.S. title. So I don't know what they're really planning with that, but I just felt that, LA Knight, AJ, KO, Orton, Logan Paul, throw a sixth guy in there, and that's a solid match. But you might be breaking it off into a couple singles matches, but I'm not sure that they'll all make sense. I mean, AJ and LA Knight I think I like, but I don't know if I like Randy Orton and Logan Paul. Randy Orton is U.S. champion. It doesn't do a lot for me, but I do like the prospect of Randy Orton being a champion, not being the world champion, but defending it and being a champion again in general. I'd like to see him win another world title, of course, but I think it would be an interesting pivot to have him win a quote-unquote undercard, mid-card title, but elevate it. I mean, Gunther is IC champion, and that's going to be one of the biggest matches at WrestleMania, and I believe that the title will be treated a little bit more respect going forward. So hopefully the U.S. title can kind of get that respect even further. I mean, I think Logan Paul's done a great job with it, but I think if you get a Randy Orton to win the title, that kind of changes it and elevates it somehow even more, which I like. So maybe I'm talking myself into a Logan Paul Randy Orton match and it not being the worst thing in the world. So you never know. Also, so The Rock had a crazy new entrance on SmackDown. The entrances at WrestleMania might take up 40 minutes with everybody singing Seth Rollins' theme, with Cody's pyro. God, Cody's pyro on night 2 might be the craziest pyro we've ever seen in the history of the professional wrestling business. The Rock and his new intro, his WrestleMania intro is going to be unbelievable. And Roman Reigns, of course, is going to have probably the biggest entrance of all 4 of the guys, at least on night 1. So look out for that. I mean, the production is only getting bigger with all these, Rock being on the board of directors of TKO legitimately, I think, is one, he's leaning into it, saying he's the boss, and certain things like that I think that are going to help this program going forward. And I think, Rock having a huge entrance and just being that guy is going to be something. So SmackDown I thought was pretty solid overall, and we can transition that into Raw, we're going to talk about a few other notes. We'll get into some other outside the ring things here in a moment, because I do want to just talk about the regular stuff, but after we talk about Raw, we'll get into the outside of the ring stuff. But Raw was okay. The main event, of course, was the main focus here, but Drew McIntyre. Look, I think Drew McIntyre is a shoo-in to win the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania. Or I'll put it this way, I think he should be the guy to walk out of WrestleMania as a World Heavyweight Champion. I know that Damian Priest could absolutely change those plans. And I wouldn't hate a Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre one-on-one match. I think that's a unique and intriguing one-on-one match that I don't believe we've seen before. So I would be interested in that. I don't know if I want Drew's moment, quote unquote, to be upended by Damian Priest, because I think the goal of the Judgment Day is to take away a lot of their stuff, potentially the tag titles, potentially Rhea's title, and then maybe Priest loses the cash in. I don't know. I mean, they could either hold everything by the end of WrestleMania or lose it all. So, or maybe Rhea's the only one that keeps it, and that's where everything falls apart. But I think Drew is just on fire right now in his promos. He keeps taking shots at CM Punk, which, I mean, let's be real. CM Punk is not going to wrestle at WrestleMania. CM Punk is advertised, though, for the March 25th episode of Raw in Chicago, which is great. That's, I think, the week before the Go Home show, which is nice. That'll be nice to have him in there. I have a feeling they're going to announce that he's either the host of WrestleMania or he's going to do some guest commentary. But I would love to see him get involved in some way with Drew and the world title match. I don't know. I just think the fact that CM Punk is hurt, he got hurt by like a fluke, DDT from Drew, and it's now flipped into Drew being a dastardly heel who's really great at being a heel, yet I still kind of see him as a tweener because he's very beloved by everybody and he's doing a great job at what he is doing. And it's tough to hate on the guy, but when he's just trashing CM Punk all the time while CM Punk is on the shelf, I think it's great TV. And it's just perfect because, let's just say Drew wins the world title. CM Punk's going to be available at some point going forward, and you're going to potentially have those two interact, whether it's a world title match or just a feud in general. And I'm here for it. And I'm here for them setting that up now, even though one of the two guys can't even wrestle. So, Drew has a match with Seth Rollins coming up, yet he is more obsessed with talking about CM Punk week to week. So they're really covering all their bases. They're setting up a lot of cool stuff going into the summer months. The summer of Punk 5, we'll see if he's available, and we'll maybe for SummerSlam. Let's get back to that real quick. And this is an outside the ring thing, but it's also, I wanted to bring it up with Logan Paul whenever he brought up the Prime sponsorship and what have you. Logan Paul did announce on his podcast, Impulsive. Only a few more listeners on that program compared to the Juice Box, but we're working on it. He announced that SummerSlam 2024 will in fact be at Cleveland Browns Stadium in Cleveland, Ohio, Saturday, August 3rd. As a guy from Pittsburgh, I am thrilled because we're getting WrestleMania in Philly, which is arguably 5 hours away, maybe in a drive. And Cleveland for SummerSlam, which is like 2.5, 3 hours maybe, depending on traffic, which are both very doable. And I think those are they're two of the biggest shows of the year, if not the two biggest shows of the year. And for them to be close enough, and Pittsburgh did get Payback last September, which was a fun show, great time. Shout out to Wrestling Nation for making it such a great time as well. But it's just nice that when WWE is really stacking up the first W of their acronym, which is World, and they're doing Toronto and Berlin, and they did Puerto Rico, and they're always doing Saudi, and they're going to be in Toronto. Like, they're not stopping. They're going to go to London, I'm sure. They were just in Perth, Australia. I mean, they were just in London as well, but they're probably going to go to London for a WrestleMania. So as time moves forward in this new regime, this TKO version of WWE, WWE is so damn successful and on the up and up right now. They are only going to get more international as time progresses. So, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm upset that they're doing that. I love it. I love the random. I do. People will complain about, Perth being a 5 a.m. start. That's okay. And that's not always going to be the case. Like the UK shows are going to be more tolerable for the United States fans. But I didn't mind the Perth thing. I love the international shows. These fans never get these big shows. The United States has always they've thrived. We've gotten so many big shows, literally like all of them. Particularly North America has had every WrestleMania. So at some point, these shows won't always just be on domestic soil, and I'm okay with that. First of all, I'm okay with not having the pressures of spending a lot of money to go to some of these shows. However, I'm thrilled that WrestleMania is in Philly, and I'll be there, and SummerSlam is in Cleveland, and I'm going to try to go to that as well. But I kind of like, sitting back, and they're going to go to France for Backlash. So I'm sure I'll be, depending on what time that is, I'll probably be getting home from work as it starts. So it'll be like a perfect middle of the day thing. Like I like the growth. I love that interaction with the international fans. And it just makes wrestling better when the fans are super into it. So I like that is happening, but I'm thrilled that, Cleveland gets SummerSlam. So I'm going to soak it in as I can before more shows become international. I don't know how many more of these, your Fastlane in Indianapolis, Pittsburgh getting Payback. I don't know how many of those are going to start coming through. I mean, the rest of the year is almost all international outside of SummerSlam. Again, Germany, France, Canada. I mean, it's crazy. But I'm here for it. So that was a pretty big announcement with SummerSlam. So Logan Paul mentioned, he wants LeBron there. He maybe wants the Kelce's there. He said Dave Chappelle. I'm sure Jake Paul would be there. Maybe MGK can get powerbombed again by Kevin Owens. There's a lot of cool stuff that can happen with Cleveland being the host of SummerSlam. So I'm looking forward to it. Back to Raw, though. So, and that's how I tied it in. I think Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, assuming CM Punk can wrestle by August 3rd, would be a pretty solid money match for SummerSlam. So, we'll see what happens. Becky Lynch defeated Liv Morgan, and we are pretty set for a huge marquee match. Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch. It's going to be intense. I really, again, before the prediction show, so I'm not really going to assume anything, but I'm not going to just give away a prediction. But as of this point, I don't know who's going to win, who's going to walk out. At the same point, I think that Rhea Ripley is just going to solidify. I'm the dominant champion. I've beaten everybody, but and she's not going to acknowledge this, but the people she's defeated thus far as champion haven't been super over or important in the card. I don't know how else to phrase it. And of course, Charlotte at WrestleMania last year, I would say a top 2 match of the weekend. So outside of that, I think it's been kind of okay. I liked her match with Nia Jax, of course, but at Perth. But outside of that, her and Charlotte was the only other real match where I felt maybe she could lose it, or not lose it, but just maybe this is a quality win, a quality match, quality opponent. Now you get Becky Lynch, first ballot Hall of Famer. She won the world title in the first ever women's main event of WrestleMania, which was the last Mania I got to attend back in 2019. Main event started after midnight, so that was tough. But if Rhea Ripley wins and defeats Becky Lynch, that really puts Rhea Ripley at another level. And I don't know where she would go after that. I don't know if who's her next challenger. maybe you get... See, I think Bianca versus Rhea is a WrestleMania match, but I mean, if they wanted to do that at SummerSlam, I wouldn't hate that either. But I also could just see Becky winning and kind of starting anew, but I don't agree with that. I think Rhea should be the champion for the foreseeable future, even though she's been champion for quite a long time now. And then we get this. So I mentioned how there will not be a U.S. title ladder match at WrestleMania, but we will get a 6-pack challenge ladder match at WrestleMania for the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. It will be Finn Balor and Damian Priest, the Judgment Day, taking on 5 other teams. We don't know who the teams are. I'm going to quickly look. Let's see here. The amount of teams, there's, I believe, qualifying matches tonight on SmackDown and on Raw. I'm going to see here. I think there was some people announced. Yeah, I don't see anything as of yet. Okay, but I think there's qualifying matches. I know Awesome Truth is in a match. I want to say on Monday. I don't have any of that in front of me, and it's not easily available, so I really don't know. But we're gonna get qualifiers. Here's the thing: a 6-pack the tag match, the tag titles in a ladder match with 6 teams is nuts. I was hoping for a 6-person ladder match for the U.S. title, and now we're gonna get double the opponents, 12 combatants in a ladder match. It's gonna be nuts. It'll be a spectacle. However, and it depends on who is in it, because I'm assuming Awesome Truth is in it, Miz and R-Truth. I would have preferred R-Truth getting the huge pinfall victory over the Judgment Day after they have ridiculed him, jokingly welcomed him into the group, and then got his ass out of there because they didn't really want him in the group. It would have been nice to see Judgment Day get their comeuppance from R-Truth and The Miz, to be fair. Yet, we'll get this match, and sure, Awesome Truth could still win, but it's going to be more or less just, they grabbed the titles and that's it. And it's not really a story-based match, which I don't have a huge problem with it. I would have preferred them losing in a story, but there's not really a story outside of R-Truth. So if Awesome Truth isn't going against them one-on-one, I guess this is the next best thing. However, I'm curious if they bring both sets of titles for this match. Will we see one team brought down the Raw set, one team brought down the SmackDown set. We got 2 sets of champions. That's just how it's going to be. Because I'm not sure. Are they going to split the titles again? Who knows? I don't hate splitting them. I liked having one tag title and one world title until it got to Roman Reigns holding one world title for 3 years. Welcome World Heavyweight Championship and Seth Rollins. And I didn't mind the tag titles being unified until they were really not unified and defended it much after the fact. So, you can't have everything and want to have the story. There's a lot to go in there. So I don't know what they're going to do. We'll have to see how the chips fall and who's going to be involved. But I'm going to be excited. I'm looking forward to the match. Don't get me wrong. A 6-team, 12-person ladder match for the tag titles at Mania is dope. So we'll see. But outside of that, the big interview segment, the Cody had one, but we've seen it. Jey Uso Main event, Jey Uso comes out. He made his WrestleMania 40 intentions very clear. He says, look, I want brother versus brother. I want Uso versus Uso. I want yeet or no yeet. I want me versus me, which is so awesome. I love that phrasing, me versus me, because that's what it is. And he challenged Jimmy Uso for a match at WrestleMania. I think it's absolutely going to happen. I would say Jimmy Uso probably will address that tonight on SmackDown. My question is, will it just be a one-on-one match? Will it be a cage match? Will it be some sort of, other gimmick match? Or is it just going to be a straight-up one-on-one? Because Jey is doing a lot as main event Jey Uso and is very clearly a good single star without, Jimmy. Jimmy, however, is ensconced in the bloodline stuff, and that might throw him off, and maybe the bloodline falls apart as we get closer to WrestleMania, and Jimmy gets the match with Jey, and Jimmy loses, and then bloodline rules happens, and Jimmy and Jey have another spout. Maybe, who knows when that match happens, if it's on night 1 or night 2, so... we saw Brett and Owen in the first match at WrestleMania 10. We had Matt and Jeff Hardy one-on-one at WrestleMania 25. And at WrestleMania 40, I do believe we're going to get Jimmy and Jey Uso in another brother versus brother match. So that will be really cool to see as well. And then, last but certainly not least, we had the 6-man gauntlet match for the IC title opportunity at WrestleMania. Ricochet, JD McDonough, Big Bronson Reed, Chad Gable, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Sami Zayn. And, it came down to the two guys I figured it would, Chad Gable and Sami Zayn. And even though Chad Gable's shoulders, looked to be raised and up off the mat, Sami Zayn did get the 1-2-3. Sami Zayn will be going against Gunther at WrestleMania, which I think is the right call. I think Chad Gable can get a moment without having to defeat Gunther. Sami Zayn has a history with this IC title. I would say he put the IC title on the map once it got the new design. Sami Zayn is the guy I attribute and correlate with that design. For better or worse, it happened during the pandemic, but I was one of the people that liked the design, and I thought his character at the time was really cool and interesting, and now he's back to being a face, and I think he's going to dethrone Gunther. I think it's going to be an amazing moment. As I record this, we are at the 20th anniversary of WrestleMania 20, which is insane. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know how the night ended with Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, best friends, both celebrating their world title victories together with confetti. Damn it, wouldn't it be fantastic? Sami Zayn ends Gunther's Intercontinental title reign potentially on Sunday night. And then in the main event, Cody Rhodes, Bloodline rules against Roman Reigns, chaos going forth. And the guy who lost in his hometown of Montreal, Sami Zayn, freshly becoming IC champion, somehow helps assist Cody Rhodes winning the Undisputed Universal title. And you get Sami Zayn maybe and Cody Rhodes celebrating in the ring, maybe with Jey Uso, maybe a ton of guys just celebrating that the Bloodline are done. I don't know what that looks like, but I think you could see something akin to the ending of WrestleMania 20. I'm not saying it's going to be identical by any stretch, but I think that you could really pull that off and it'd be fun. So, we shall see. But before we dive into the dynamite of it all, to close out the show, right now, WrestleMania looks like this. Night 1, the only match guaranteed for Night 1 is the Bloodline, Rock and Roman versus Cody and Seth. Like I said, if Cody and Seth win, Bloodline will be barred from ringside for Night 2, Roman and Cody. But if the Bloodline win on night 1. Bloodline rules match on night 2, which pretty much means anything goes. Night 2 will have Seth freaking Rollins and Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight title. And, of course, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Universal title. Pretty stacked. I would wager Gunther will be on night 2 as well because of how big that match will be. But let's get to there's 4 other matches that have been announced, but no day has been set yet. Io Sky defending her women's title against Bayley. Rhea Ripley defending her that was the WWE women's title. Rhea Ripley defending the women's world title against Becky Lynch. Gunther defending his Intercontinental Championship against Sami Zayn. And then the Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damian Priest defending against 5 other teams yet to be determined in a 6-pack ladder match for the undisputed WWE Tag Team title. So that's going to be something. That's really going to be something. WrestleMania is beginning to take shape. It's really not there yet, but some of the big matches have been kind of set in stone. I still think we got a lot more to come down the pike there, but it's going to be something. It's going to be a sight to behold. I'm just looking forward to being there and seeing what they pull off for the 40th show of shows. Before we get into the AEW of it all, I would like to say I did get to see the Dark Side of the Ring episode of John Tenta, Earthquake, Shark, Avalanche, however you want to call them. Very sad episode, very depressing episode, but I mean that's Dark Side of the Ring to a T there. I was always a fan of John Tenta's work. Taken from the world way too soon, but it was really, even as sad as it was really nice to see his family kind of just back how great of a guy he was, and great dad, great just husband, and just great guy overall. It's just such a stark contrast to his in-ring character, and as this monster of a man, and he was literally the most, the term gentle giant gets thrown around as a cliche, yet I don't think it could have been any more apt for a guy like John Tenta. So that was a tough episode to watch, but I did not get a chance to see the Buff Bagwell episode yet, but I will be seeking that out, and hopefully we'll get back to you guys next week with that. Because WCW, I was a Buff Bagwell fan later on in his run. His early NWO Buff Bagwell I could deal without. I liked his more flamboyant babyface Buff Bagwell in '99, and I did enjoy Marcus Alexander Bagwell back in like '91 to '94. Even 95 as Stars and Stripes, and the American Males, of course. So I was a fan of Buff Bagwell in general, so I will be looking forward to seeing that episode as well. And then we did get a few more inductees announced for the WWE Hall of Fame. We have in the celebrity wing Muhammad Ali, who, I don't really need to tell you the stuff that he has accomplished in his career. Absolute legend in sport. He was referee at WrestleMania 1. A lot of interesting contributions to pro wrestling. After the fact. So I don't know. He was in WCW briefly for I believe Bash at the Beach, '94. He had the exhibition against Antonio Inoki. There's a lot of. I don't have to really go forth with Muhammad Ali's wrestling career and in his life in and around the squared circle, but I mean, like I said, him being the special guest referee for the main event of the first WrestleMania pretty much is a solid reason for why he is here. He was a guest of honor at Collision in Korea as well, which is the biggest attendance in the history of pro wrestling. So very well deserved. And then another inductee was Thunderbolt Patterson, who is still around. He's 82 years old. He is most known for being blacklisted by the National Wrestling Alliance, and for his attempts to form a union with the wrestlers. He was very outspoken on the racism in the pro wrestling industry at the time, which, I mean, you look at where wrestling was then and where it is now, and, I mean, that's a pioneer. That is a guy who was in the trenches, and, he spoke out against the tough conditions, discriminatory with racism and all those types of issues. I'm reading here, it seems that Dory Funk Sr. had been one of the only guys that actually had backed him. They tried to get a union, and then Dusty Rhodes kind of got in, and Dusty Rhodes kind of got his shtick from Thunderbolt, and then everybody got their shtick from Dusty. So a pioneer in more ways than one. I vaguely only recall he was in a Legends reunion match at Slamboree 93, and he also mentored Ice Train until he retired as an in-ring competitor in 1994. So it'll be nice that he gets inducted here. He's still alive, so that's always good to see that happening. And then last but certainly not least, the U.S. Express, Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. They were in a tag match at WrestleMania 1. I think that's a huge reason as to why this is happening. Of course, Mike Rotunda is the father of Bray Wyatt. So I think, and Barry Windham, of course, being the uncle there. I just think it's a lead up to Bray potentially being the final inductee of this particular class, which would be really nice. Although I think the Wyatt family should get inducted. I don't know how they're going to do that. When Luke Harper, Brody Lee is really viewed more as an AEW guy for his last couple of years, and that's where he was when he passed. But we'll see. But Barry Windham getting in as a member of the Four Horsemen in 2012, and now 12 years later as a member of the U.S. Express, I think is badass. I am a huge Barry Windham fan. Barry Windham was on my flight, I believe, going to was it either Orlando or New Orleans for one of the WrestleManias, and I wanted him to suplex me through the cabin, but it did not happen. But Barry Windham, man, what a great pro wrestler, a pro wrestler's pro wrestler. Big fan of his, so nice to see him get his flowers again. And getting another induction into the Hall of Fame. I think he could have gotten a solo induction, but, that's not how it went. So let's get into AEW Big Business to close out the show this week. The show was solid. The ratings didn't show that, though. And we will discuss that here in just a moment. But, I thought the show was solid. So, of course, this whole show was kind of built around the potential, quote-unquote, of Mercedes Moné debuting with AEW. And the show began, again, this is an unadvertised, worst-kept secret in wrestling, and this is the CM Punk First Dance thing where they don't announce it, but it's in their hometown. Oh, my God, what could happen? And that setting the stage like that. The show starts with a Maybach coming up, pulling in to the TD Garden, and the door opens, and then they cut to the crowd, and you can hear the crowd audibly going, oh man, that was her. And I got to shout out to friend of the show, Andrew Baydala, at Andrew Baydala on Twitter, who co-hosts TNT alongside JD from New York. He said, I would have done a countdown to Mercedes' appearance, maybe use like a bank vault type graphic to promote what could happen and who could be showing up and lead up to the end of the night where that, inevitably is a Mercedes Moné, which initially I disagreed with because to me, I'm thinking, look, everybody knows she's going to be there. Let's put her out there to start the show, have her say why she's there, and let's just make this thing happen. And that was under the assumption that the main event segment would have been something different and not necessarily just Mercedes coming to the aid and assist a women's wrestler. But that's what happened, and the ratings showed it. So they did announce that Mercedes Moné is all elite. That's what we got. She did a little 10-minute seg, and it was nice. The fans were there for her the entire way. The music was pretty solid, although I enjoyed the music in New Japan a little bit. The music that they use here was pretty much, if not the same, but very similar to Gunther's original Walter theme. But the part that I enjoyed more than anything is there is a inserted CEO chant throughout, and much like I mentioned, I believe last week with the spray, spray, these on purpose directed chants are only going to help put over stars in AEW more than anything else will. And a good entrance song and having the fans be a part of it and engaged and be able to sing along. Hate on Chris Jericho all you want, but the fans know all the lyrics to his songs. Seth Rollins, they chant his song. Cody Rhodes. I mean, it goes on, and it's important to have catchy stuff and a catchy chant. And I think the CEO will really be something that helps Mercedes Moné and AEW going forward. And I liked her look too. The hair was dope. She looks great. Looking forward to actually seeing her in ring. So we'll see. Samoa Joe, Wardlow, world title match. Well, that was it. Joe tapped out Wardlow, or submitted him. He passed out, and I don't know, man. That was it. Swerve came out and tried to get to Joe, and that was it. I'm sure we're gonna get maybe another match at Dynasty, but I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, necessarily. I wasn't maybe expecting Wardlow to just win the title outright, but I mean, my God. It just keeps coming off well, I don't know if he's going to win the big one ever, and he's just not winning anything. He's not doing anything. He just keeps losing. And I put it out on Twitter. I'd love to see Wardlow in NXT. Imagine him and Dijak one-on-one, let alone, Braun Breaker or just any other talent. A lot of athletic big guys in NXT and the main roster that I think would be a really solid fit to face off against the Wardlow. So I don't know if that's in the future, but something needs to happen soon with Wardlow, because he's just being, to me, I think he's being misused. I'll just come out and say it. So I don't know. It's just not the best. So that was that match. Nothing really happened. We got the Elite, which is the Young Bucks and Okada versus Eddie, Kingston, Penta, and Pac. This is a fun match. The Elite gets the win. The future of this is pretty interesting as well. the Young Bucks have been doing a really strong leaning into the, 1980s-esque, literally EVP business heels, and I love it. And it's great when they do it in ring. It's perfect. And Okada being a heel and kind of gradually getting more comfortable on the mic, but having the Young Bucks as mouthpieces really works, and I like that. And of course, after the match, it looks as if we are going to get, and we are going to get it next week. I think I'm going to bring up that card. Let's see here. In Toronto next week, we are going to get Kazuchika Okada versus Eddie Kingston for the Continental title. So that'll be something. We're also going to get Lionheart Chris Jericho versus Hook in a one-on-one match. So that plus the I Quit match between Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Another solid card next week. Hopefully it does better in the ratings. So we'll see. Darby Allin, Jay White, I thought was a good match. Darby Allin gets beat up after the fact. The Bang Bang Scissor Gang gets disbanded because Billy Gunn got hit with a chair from Jay White. So thank God, because I think the Bullet Club Gold is arguably one of the better things in AEW. I love Jay White. And I love the Guns, and I think that combined, they're really, really solid, and they're believable, and they're really good. So I think they should continue being a team, and I'm glad that they got away from the Acclaimed. I think both the Acclaimed and Bullet Club Gold should be their own entities and not be combined. I don't know what the hell that was for, but let's move forward. Seems like Darby was written off TV because he's going to climb Mount Everest. Oh, my God. Please, Darby, be safe. We want you back. So, and first of all, heal up before you go climb Mount Everest, for God's sake. Hook and Jericho got the win over the Gates of Agony, and like I said, Hook and Jericho, I believe, are wrestling next week, so that'll be fun. First time ever. And then the main event, Rio versus Willow Nightingale. Oh boy, this is an interesting match. Willow got the win. The match was okay, and then Julia Hart Sky Blue attacked Willow. Mercedes Moné made the save, hit her finisher on Julia Hart, which looked badass. And Willow and Moné posed together after the fact. Now, of course, you recall Willow and Moné had a match earlier in Moné's initial NJPW run, and that's when Moné got hurt, and now it's been 2 years, and now she's back. So I think for now they're going to have a respectful alliance, and then maybe a respectful feud going forward after the alliance, does what it needs to do, wins a match at a pay-per-view or whatever, and we move forward. So I don't know. It was okay, but the Moné of it all and the ratings of it all, this is what I was alluding to earlier. I don't know what fans were expecting, but 801,000 viewers and a .27 key demo was what Dynamite got. Compare that. CM Punk was not advertised for the August 20th, 2021 episode of Rampage, not Dynamite, Rampage, and it got 1.129 million viewers with a .53 in the demo, which is almost double the demo of what Dynamite got. And I know Moné and Punk are not the same person, and they're different characters, and Punk is more over, arguably, than her. That being said, you look at the rating by the segments like how it went. I mean, they lost all the momentum as time grew on, and by the they had about 1 million when the show started for Mercedes Moné, and about 600 and some thousand by the end of the night, and that was when you had her come back out. And I just think it looks bad, but I just, I get why they did it the way they did it. I also agree that, this is a different type of introduction of a character, and it's not CM Punk, and no one should have expected that. And I get that. I'm just hopeful that this is not looked at too negatively, and they can kind of build upon it next week. Like next week, that's in Toronto. They have a lot of good matches set up. Maybe they'll plan it out a little differently, and they'll get a higher rating than this, which would be, that's what they need to do. Regardless of what happened this week, 801,000 was up from last week, but let's improve from this week. Let's get over 801,000. Let's get 850,000. You got an I Quit match between, Edge and Christian. You've got Taz's son versus Jericho, which has a lot of fun history tied to it. And you got Okada against Eddie Kingston for a title. One-on-one. Okada on TV, North America. So you would think you'd get over 850 there. So let's hope that they get over 850 and just progress forward. Let's not hit the panic button. And as of right now, Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson is the only match for AEW Dynasty. I wanted to put that out there. Looking forward to that show as well. That'll be the same weekend as SmackDown in Pittsburgh, so that'll be a fun weekend of pro wrestling. But yeah, man, we are in the thick of it. The road to WrestleMania is actively being paved, and AEW is, really putting a lot out there. The last couple weeks, the most recent signings to AEW's roster: Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada, and Mercedes Moné. Those are three huge names in the pro wrestling business, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it progresses going forward, as long as they maintain, their stance of being over and the creative way that they're booked, hopefully, and not mismanaged, and stick with the, what got you there. Don't forget where you came from in that regard. I think MJF will really ignite a lot once he gets back. I mean, he has not been on AEW TV this year. So that tells you a lot. We're almost halfway through March, and MJF has not been on AEW TV. So he will definitely inject, I think, a little bit of an uptick in the ratings. MJF is absolutely a needle mover. So we'll see. But yeah, it's a fun show this week. Hopefully, I say this every week, but hopefully we get. We're trying to record Triple Threat Theater Volume 4 to be released during WrestleMania week. So, little peek behind the curtain there, but it will be done. I have faith in the guys. Look, we're all adults. We have crazy schedules. A lot going on these days in all of our lives. So, we'll get it done, and that will be happening WrestleMania week. The predictions will be happening WrestleMania week. I got a SIP series already in the can, ready to roll for WrestleMania week, which should be a little interesting episode, I think. Nothing too crazy, but it was an interview I've wanted to do for a bit, so I'm happy to finally get that done. Like I said, a couple of distribution changes and additions will be happening that I'll announce around WrestleMania week. And a little bit of a different presentation, if you will, to the show. Nothing drastic, but you'll get what I mean as we get closer to WrestleMania. So I'll just leave it there. But yeah, this is a great time to be a wrestling fan. Let's just enjoy everything that we've got. WWE and AEW, TNA, still firing on all cylinders. I believe they have a pay-per-view. I think, God, is it the same weekend? The Saturday of the 20th there, the Dynasty show. So a lot of wrestling going on that weekend, to be fair. RWA too. Hell, I mean, RWA this weekend has the Sandman. Unfortunately, I will not be there, but hopefully he gets some comeuppance on Norm Connors from last month at RWA, and then hopefully I'll be at the April show. So we'll see how that goes. But as always, juicysteen.podbean.com. Find the Juice Box on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. follow me on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. Let me see your pro wrestling shirts if you've got any. We'll dive into some of that as we get closer to WrestleMania week as well, because there is a event I will be attending that weekend with more details as we get closer, where wrestling shirts are going to be at a premium. So you want some crazy old school shirts, you want to really, you got some disposable income, I'll let you know where that is as we get closer to Mania as well. So yeah, check me out there on Instagram, and of course, as always, on Twitter at JuicySteen. Block me, banter with me, tweet at me, whatever you want to do, I'm there. So appreciate you guys listening to the show. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend, St. Paddy's Day this weekend, and then a couple more weeks, and we are at Philly for WrestleMania. So enjoy SmackDown tonight, and I'll see you guys next week with another episode of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.